to see how to set up FTP on a Windows machine. Now, there are a number of different FTP programs that you can use, but I'm going to recommend that you use a browser called Firefox and a plugin called fireFTP. Once that's up and running, I'll show you the reasons why I prefer that particular FTP program. If you want to use a different one that you're comfortable with, then feel free, but if not, then follow along. So in Chrome, we'll create a new tab, and then we'll search for Firefox. Firefox, if you haven't heard of it, is a browser much like Chrome or Internet Explorer, and it's freely available and it's quite widely used, so it's well worth getting comfortable with it, because you'll probably be checking that your websites look good on it at some point as well, so it's a good thing to have on your system anyway. But it has a very robust plugin ecosystem, including, I think, the best FTP software, fireFTP, which is an add-on for Firefox. So click yes, and then click install. That will then download Firefox and install it on your machine. And there we go. I would probably go for the don't import anything, just to keep things simple, and then click next. And here we go. So Firefox is now set up. I'm not going to set it as my default browser. And you're welcome to create a Firefox account, but I'm going to leave that out for now. What I am going to do is click the three bars over here to get the menu, and then click add-ons. And I'm going to add the fireFTP add-on by searching in the box at the top right for fireFTP. And there it is. So top of the list there, fireFTP, just click install. That will then install it as an add-on within Firefox. So you'll need to open Firefox to access fireFTP. There we go. Now we need to restart Firefox to install the fireFTP add-on. And there we go. That's now done. And if we click in the My Add-ons box there, you can see that fireFTP has now been added for us. One thing I want to do before we actually use fireFTP is add it to our bookmarks bar up here. So just right-click on the toolbar and scroll down to Customize. And then you'll see the fireFTP icon there as an option to add to the toolbar. So just drag it and add it wherever you like. So I'll just pop it right there. And then click the big green Exit Customize button. Fantastic. Now you'll be able to click the fireFTP button to get your fireFTP page open. And this is it. This is what fireFTP looks like. On the left-hand side, we've got files on your local machine. And on the right-hand side, at the moment it's blank, but when we connect to our server, we'll see all the files on the server and we'll be able to edit and upload to them. So on my machine, I want to have my desktop open. There we go. And I want to create an account. So I'm just going to click Create an Account up there. And in order to have an FTP account, I need to know the FTP details, and I can get those in the control panel for my hosting package. So we noted those down here. Here we go, they're under FTP details, and I'll copy the username first of all. So just copy that and use Control-C to copy it to the clipboard. It's just the domain name. And then I'm going to switch back to Firefox, and the login is just the domain name. And I'm going to add that for the account name as well so that I can refer to it in fireFTP. Then click here to show next to the password. Select that, Control-C to copy, and paste it into the password. And finally, we're going to use the FTP server ftp.stackcp.com. You can use the FTP server, but only if you've purchased the domain name. Wonderful. Then click OK. One more thing we'll need to do before we can connect is we'll need to unlock FTP. Now, Eco Web Hosting has a security feature whereby FTP locks automatically after a certain amount of time. And that means that someone can't access your files even if they manage to track down your FTP password somehow. So I'm going to unlock FTP for just an hour. Obviously, the longer you unlock it for, the more risky it is, but the more convenient it is. So it's a balance between the two there. So I'm going to unlock, but you will need to be unlocked before you try and connect. Otherwise, it won't work. All right, now back over to fireFTP. Keep your fingers crossed, and then we'll click connect. And there we go. So we're now connected, and you can see the folder that we're now reasonably familiar with, public HTML, and also the CGI bin that we're ignoring for the moment as well. So just double click public HTML, and you can see we've got our index.html file right there. So one of the things you may have noticed when we opened up our Hello World page was that the picture didn't work. And that's because the picture file isn't actually there on the server. We only had it on our own computer. So what I can do is take the earth.jpg file from my computer and click the arrow to the right there, and that will upload it to my server. And now earth.jpg will be on the server. So if I go back over to Chrome and refresh the page by pressing F5, then we now get the earth.jpg file appearing. So that's how easy it is to use fireFTP to upload files to our server. We can download files as well if we want to using the other arrow. But the real great feature of fireFTP is that it allows you to edit files right there on the server. And that's what I want to show you how to do now. But before we can do it, we'll need to make sure that the file that we want to edit actually opens up in our Notepad++ or whichever text editor you're using. At the moment, you can see we've got a little E for Internet Explorer or Edge browser. So at the moment, if I try and open that, it's going to open in the browser, which is not what I want. So I'm going to go to my desktop and find any HTML file. So I've got a file here, webpage.html. You should have a bunch of files in your Complete Web Developer course folder, many of which will be .html files. So it doesn't matter which one, but find any HTML file, right-click on it, and then click Open With, and then go down and choose another app. And this is the point at which we're going to choose the app to open our HTML file. And you may see your browser in that list. I don't in this case, so I'm going to click More Apps. And then we've got Notepad, which is no good. Still, I haven't found Notepad++. So look for another app on this PC. Notepad++, which is in, if you've installed it in the default location, C drive, and then Program Files x86, Notepad++, and then Notepad++. And there it is. So now we can click Always Use this app to open .html files, select Notepad++, and click OK. And what we've done there is we've associated Notepad++ with all HTML files on our machine. So now if I go back to Firefox and fireFTP and right-click on index.html and then open, it will open in our default program, which will be Notepad++. So you can see there it is right there. And the great thing here is that we can edit our index.html file right here in Notepad++, and any changes that we make will be saved automatically on the server. So if I want to remove this period at the end of that sentence for some reason, then if I do that and then save, that save will be communicate it to the server straight away. And then if I refresh the page again, you can see the full stop has gone. So that means that we can edit our files right there on the server using Notepad++ immediately, which is a really handy thing to be able to do. So that's the setup for fireFTP. Remember that when you start editing any other type of file, like a .css file, or later on in the course, a .php file, you'll need to go through the process of setting those files to open with Notepad++ in your Windows machine. And the process will be exactly the same as what we've just done here. Okay, that's it. So now you can upload your own Hello World page to your own web hosting package, make a few edits, and see those changes happen immediately online. Then use the URL to share the page with me and your friends and family. Congratulate yourself on making a great website, and let's move on and learn a bit of CSS. So in this video, we're going to see how to set up FTP on a Mac. And we're going to be using the same software as in Windows. So that is Firefox and fireFTP. So first off, in Chrome, if you haven't already got it, then Google download Firefox. And just click on the top result there. And click the big free download button. And I'm just going to download it here to my desktop. It shouldn't take too long. But while we're waiting, I'll just tell you that if you haven't used it before, Firefox is an alternative browser. It's quite highly used, so it's worth having on your system to be able to check to make sure your websites look good in Firefox as well as Chrome. But one of the best things about it is it has a huge add-on and plugin ecosystem. And one of my favorite plugins is fireFTP, which allows you to connect to your websites using FTP. So that's now downloaded. So click on the DMG file that's downloaded, and that will open up the Firefox installer, and you'll be able to go through the installation process. And then you'll get something like this, and you just need to drag Firefox over into your applications. Now, I'm not actually going to do that because I already have Firefox installed, but it's a very straightforward process from there. Just click Next, and then when it finishes installing, open up Firefox, and you'll be presented with something like this. So it looks like many other browsers that we've seen before, and it obviously works in the same way, but we're going to jump straight to downloading fireFTP. So I would give that a quick Google and then click on the top result, addons.mozilla.org, and then click on the green Add to Firefox button. Now, once again, I've already got fireFTP installed on my system, so I can't go through the installation process, but again, it's just a matter of clicking Next. You may have to restart Firefox to finish the installation. All right, we're almost there. So now that you've installed fireFTP, we're going to add it to our menu bar up here. So you need to control click on the toolbar area, not on any one of the actual icons, and then click Customize. And this gives you the option to customize the icons that appear up here. And I'm going to take fireFTP and drag it up to the top there. Then click Exit Customize at the bottom, and you should be back in Firefox, but with the fireFTP icon showing. So now we're going to click on fireFTP, and you should see something like this. So on the left here, we've got a directory on your computer. For me, it's my desktop. And on the right is where we'll see the files on our server when we connect to it. So how do we connect? Well, you've got Create an Account selected in the drop-down menu there. So just click Connect, and you should see the Account Manager pop up. And this is where we put the details of our FTP connection in. And we can get those from our control panel. So on the right, underneath Unlock FTP, go down and look at the FTP details. So the username is just the domain name. So in my case, robpercivalstesthostingpackage.com. So back over, I'm going to put that as the login. The password, you click on the link there and then select the password. Paste that in. and the host is ftp.stackcp.com. We'll type that in there. And I would actually put the domain name in as the account name as well, so that you can refer to it later on. And that's it. So then click OK. There is one more thing we need to do before we can connect, and that is unlock FTP. Now, Eco Web Hosting have a security feature that FTP is locked automatically after a certain time to prevent anyone else getting access to your files. So we either have to unlock FTP by time, and obviously the longer you choose here, the more risky it is in terms of someone else getting hold of your FTP login details and being able to access your files, or we can unlock by IP address, which you can use if you know you have a fixed IP address on your computer. You can check with your internet provider whether that's the case, but for now I'm just going to unlock for 1 hour. There we go. And now we go back over to fireFTP and click connect. And here we go. So now you can see the files that we saw in the file manager in the previous video. And if we look at public HTML, we can see we've got our indexed file in there. Now, one thing you may have noticed about our Hello World page is that the image didn't display. Now that's because we didn't upload the image file to our web hosting. So let's do that now using FTP. So I'm going to go into the Complete Web Developer course folder, and then number 1 HTML, and there's my earth.jpg file. So I'm going to click the right arrow to upload it, and then it's now on the server. So if I go back over and refresh the page using Command R, I can now, with any luck, see the image. There it is. So we're almost done, but there's one more thing I'd like to show you, and that's the real reason that I recommend using fireFTP over the other available FTP clients out there. So fireFTP allows you to edit files directly on the server, which means you can click save in your text editor and it will save directly on the server, which makes creating and editing websites much easier. There is a very small risk involved with that if you have a flaky connection, occasionally a save won't be registered and you'll actually lose the content of the page. But that's only happened to me very rarely, and I find it doesn't outweigh the convenience of being able to edit this way. Having said that, you should always have a backup of your website files so that if you do lose something, you can just re-upload without losing all your work. So how do we open a file now text editor from fireFTP? Well, it's very easy, but before we do so, we have to make sure that the file extension, so in this case .html, is associated with our text editor on our computer. So that means if we double clicked on an HTML file in the Finder, would it open it up in our text editor? And to make sure that that's the case, go over to Finder and find any HTML page. Doesn't matter which one it is. It doesn't matter which. So I'm going to take my webpage.html and then control click on that web page and click Get Info. And then in the Open With section, you may need to click on the arrow to open it up. You can select the program that you want to open it up with. And if you haven't edited your system before, it's probably going to be Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. So you need to make sure that you've selected brackets, or if you've chosen a different text editor, then you've chosen that text editor there. And then you just click Change All. And that will then change all files with an extension of HTML to open in your text editor. All right, so now that we've done that, we can go back to Firefox and click Command O to open the file, and Control click and open, or we can also use Command and O to open the file in our text editor. And there it is. So now if we want to edit this file live on the web, for example, if I want to put a full stop at the end of that H2, then we just use Command S to save, and you can see it's updating live on the website itself. And if we go back over to Chrome and refresh the page, you can see that that change has happened live on the web. So that's how I do most of my website editing, and I recommend that's how you do it too. Bear in mind, that when you start using other file extensions such as .css or .php, you'll need to go through the same process in Finder and make sure that you've control-clicked get info and then make sure that they're all opening with brackets. Otherwise, when you use control-click and open, they won't necessarily open in the right editor. And that's it. So now, if you like, you can actually work for the whole course live on the web and use this setup to edit your page live on the web on the right and view the output on the left. I'm going to carry on working on the desktop just because it's a little bit faster, but you've got the power to work live now if you want to. Great. So I hope you're clear on how FTP works and how we can use fireFTP to upload and update files on our web space immediately.